So far in this series, we've covered my very first tape recorder, the General Electric. The second tape recorder I had was the Sony TCM 818. The tape recorder I wish I had during that time frame, that Bell & Howell 3191A. But this becomes a very, very special episode right now. I mean, a couple years ago, if you remember, I did a video on the 1966 Panasonic reel-to-reel on my channel. It all happened at the same time, around this time, in 1992. I came home from school one day, and my grandfather dropped off this tape recorder, the reel-to-reel right here. That will forever change everything I did, because I love reel-to-reels. That was my first reel-to-reel tape recorder I ever had. It was the best thing ever. But at the same time comes this beauty. Yes, this was my dad's. So I actually got this one off eBay. I'll explain what happened in just a second, but this tape recorder was my dad's first tape recorder. He mostly used it for music playback. He was an early adopter of cassettes. But yes, this is a Panasonic model RQ-209AS tape recorder from 1970. I just got it off eBay earlier this year. And the thing that's messed up is I actually won one that was mint in the box with the paperwork, microphone, and everything. The seller never shipped it, never contacted me, had to file a complaint with eBay, and I got my money back. So I went and hit this one, next best thing, and I ended up getting everything separate, but I got almost all the original pieces. And this is also very special. This is the original microphone to this unit. And it's special to me because when I found that sound design microphone I used in one of my previous videos, I also found this Panasonic microphone in the drawer. My dad said, oh yeah, it belonged to my tape recorder. I didn't know what tape recorder it was, but I absolutely loved it. Right here, it has the remote on-off switch on the side. Dynamic microphone made in Japan. Got that off eBay. And I didn't find the original owner's manual, but oddly enough, just like the Sony right here, I got the service manual for it. And the one thing I loved about the earlier Panasonics before they changed their logo to the modern logo, the old National Panasonic logo with the lightning bolts, it just looks more, I don't know, I just love it. This handle is a solid chunk of metal with chrome on it. Solid chrome handle. The case, though, and the buttons are plastic, but they're solid plastic. It's very, very well made. It's a very heavy unit, too. See, when I first got this, that's what I was saying. I was like, dang, this thing weighs a ton. The only thing I don't have for this is the power cord, but notice how it says 117 volts. And there's your volume control. It's an entry-level unit, but just because it's entry-level doesn't mean, unlike this one being entry-level, doesn't mean this isn't going to perform that well. It is the whole thing's high quality, okay? And this is what got me obsessed with vintage electronics. I know I explained to you guys what the very first encounter vintage electronics was. That was that Olympic console I have downstairs from 1966. But this is what started it, okay? For real, I mean, I think this is like around the time I really started getting old stuff, and I absolutely loved it. This tape recorder, compared to this tape recorder, which is what I had at the time, is much heavier. And you might say, well, lightweight, no. It means it's using more plastic, light plastic, This is all metal. The transport mechanism is solid very thick metal, like industrial grade. This aluminum speaker grill just looks beautiful, and it's indestructible. Basically, this thing here is indestructible. And as well, this is what's on the side. I mean, even look at the connections on here. They're not plastic going in. I mean, it's metal with nuts on there that hold it in place. Monitor would be your earphone monitor. While you're recording, you put the headphones on, monitor it that way. Now, that said, this is an entry-level tape recorder, but it's a very well-made unit. And I'm going to show you something in a minute. After I do demonstrate this tape recorder, I did another video on this like a year or two ago of a Panasonic tape recorder. It's a couple years newer, and it's fully loaded. I mean, probably not their top of the line model, but it's very well featured compared to this entry level unit. And what's entry level about it? Well, as you can see, there's no tape counter, no built-in microphone. It does have automatic level control, but it doesn't have manual. So, and there's also no line level in. You have to use the external microphone. But that said, it was an entry-level unit for cost, but very well made. And also the speaker on it, like this little speaker in here is probably about that big. This speaker here is like all the way out to the edges. It's a big speaker. Very well made unit. Now, again, this is with, I don't know what cassette they were using at the time. This is the frequency response of this one, 80 to 8,000 hertz. It's definitely much more capable than that. That's the other thing about electronics back then. They rated their stuff very conservatively compared to modern stuff. I tried to get some unrealistic values. And I say that because, I showed this one only goes up to 6,300 hertz. And then this one says 8,000. It's probably going up to really like 10,000 or more. I mean, it's a very capable unit. It has AC bias, AC erase. There's recording system. AC bias 45 kilohertz. It does have a mechanically governed motor. And this is what the service manual looks like. None of this is scripted. That's kind of why I jump around a bit. I didn't even really need the... See, I'm zoomed in too far. See, I'm looking at what I'm doing, and I apologize. There. Yep, vacuum tube voltmeter again. Even tells you how to adjust even the record bias current, record bias frequency, erase current. Now that said, and I'm going to have to insert all this, this tape recorder, when I got it, didn't work. The belts were gone on it pretty much. And I did, I'm going to insert the video to show everything I did to it. But that said, there was, I'm losing my train of thought here, guys. I'm sorry. Changed the belts, put it, and I completely lubricated the mechanism. When I put it back together, it had a lot of flutter in the tape speed and also played too slowly. It's a mechanically governed motor, so you can't really adjust it once it leaves the factory. I mean, I see how it's done, but you can't really adjust it. I've tried, trust me, on another mechanical governed motor. It can't really do it. And that said, I put it back together, played too slowly, and it had the flutter. But also the amplifier was making some popping sounds and other things. It turns out that nearly every capacitor except two, I believe, were bad in this unit. And you'll see that in the video here. So Let's go watch this video on me restoring it.
Anyhow, the first obvious thing that's wrong, okay, I powered it up. I don't have the original power cord for it. But, okay, of course the belts are very, very loose, as you can see. So they slip a bit, so I'm going to have to change those out. Luckily, I have some belts I can throw in this. The other issue is, and I'll activate the play mode, and you'll hear it. That's actually the motor. It's nothing to get too concerned about. You just put a drop of oil on the end of the motor. I'll probably have to take the motor apart to do it. If I remember right, this is a mechanically governed motor. It just uses pretty much paracentrifugal switches that open and close so fast while it's turning. It maintains a steady speed. So speed is non-adjustable on this unit. But I mean, this is a beauty of this is also purely discrete circuits. There's no integrated circuits. And if I remember this back in the day, it sounded fantastic. And this was like what would be considered an entry-level tape recorder. And I'll get into all the details. I also love all the handwritten, you know, it was obviously stamped on there, but I'm just saying, you know. Okay, so let's get going with this, shall we? Well, the trick did it. Put some oil on the bearing. It's quiet again. So next step is I'm going to get new belts for this. I'm going to get some fresh grease and put on here, and then we'll test it out. Oh yeah, check out this heavy flywheel here. Yep. Got this thing apart. Cleaning everything off with alcohol. I'm going to put a new belt on it. Clean anything rubber, idlers, and re-grease everything. Okay, I had this mostly disassembled, oiled the motor, greased everything that I could, cleaned all rubber surfaces with rubber cleaner. It's kind of neat, this little thing. Here's the clutch, and that directly touches the reel table for the some take-up reel. And I'll show you how it works. Okay, let's see, we'll go in the play mode. Notice the idler for the rewind and fast forward does not turn or engage in this mode. The clutch does. And I'm going to try to demonstrate this real quick. If the door open ever so slightly, like I'll try to stall it. See? Right, just enough friction to let it slip during playback. And this is what fast forward does. Observe. Let's play again, sorry. Trying to do this one-handed. Okay, there's fast forward. Rewind is way over here. Makes some pretty cool sounds, actually. Okay. And here is the unit after repair. Still needs to be cleaned up, as you can see, but this is what it looks like pretty much as found. I mean, even this handle is made out of metal, not plastic with chrome on it, metal. It's a solid tape recorder. You can just look at it and you know it's quality. Anyhow, and we'll just do a little close-up here inside the cassette mechanism. Everything's already been cleaned. Head's demagnetized. Pinch roller with rubber rejuvenator on it. So this is what play sounds like. And it is nice and solid. And oddly enough, you hear how the motor sounds? Listen. That's exactly the same way the one I had back in the day sounded, which I'll get into later on once I'm done with this. So you see, there's play. Here's rewind. And here it's really strong. Fast forward. Very, very strong after new belts. When I got this, as you heard, the motor was squealing due to dry bearings, and the everything was weak. Everything turned, but was very weak. So just putting new belts in, lubricating everything, fixed this thing right up. What, 46 years later? And I just replaced the foam in the battery cover, on the battery cover for the battery compartment. It completely disintegrated, so I replaced it with some vinyl weather stripping of the same, what would be the same thickness and actually the same size. So it was a nice, perfect fit. So that was a nice little touch there. Well, guys, some time has passed, and I tested the tape recorder. It sounded okay, but it had issues like speed problems, and it had a bunch of like popping sounds in the audio. But it sounded good enough, but I'm like, eh. So I put it on the shelf for, I hate to say it, like a couple months, because I just worked on other things. And as you can see probably off to the left here, I recapped the whole thing. They're separated into 3 piles because only these 3 caps were good, and they're only marginally good. The caps in this pile had good ESR, but they're all like almost twice, if not more than twice, their rated value. And these 3 here just had bad ESR, but the correct value. Now I'll give you a good example here. This is a 220 microfarad 6.3 volt. For a 1.6, that's well beyond 20% tolerance for an electrolytic. So, yeah, I just recapped the whole thing. Took about an hour. And it was worth it. It works so much better now. As for like the speed issue, okay, I'll explain this. The motor is mechanically governed. And before, if I put my frequency counter on it, playing a 1 kilohertz test tone, it was only getting maybe like about 980 hertz. So it did sound a bit slow when playing some tapes recorded at the correct speed. Now it's at 994 hertz, which is real close to 100. I mean, you're not going to get it exact because variances in environment, temperature, etc., will affect it. You can set it for 1 kilohertz all you want, but the next time you use it, it's probably going to be like 100, 1007 hertz or something. So, I mean, give it plus or minus about 7 or 8 hertz, you'll be okay. You won't notice it. That said, it's the speed's dead on now. So something may have been draining power, from one of these electrolytic caps, probably draining power from the motor here, and causing it to drop under what it can mechanically control and lost speed, and hence the flutter part. The other problem I was having, if I hit play, now if I turn up I'll turn the amplifier up all the way. It's typical amplifier hiss, and this thing's increasingly loud, but before it was making a bunch of popping and weird noises. Well, I guess that explains that.
Alright, so we're back. It's late 1992. I get this tape recorder and I'm in love with it too, along with that reel-to-reel up there. Now, before I go on, what happened to this tape recorder? My dad's tape recorder, I didn't know anything about the belts in it. I didn't know where to get belts at. I was 10 years old and my parents wouldn't buy me the parts for it. Because oh yeah, it's too old, why put any money into it, blah, blah, blah. That's all I got all the time. Never mind, that's a rant, I'm not going there. Anyhow, I ended up just, as much as I'm ashamed of doing this, just throwing it out. And it played fine. That's what was stupid. It just didn't rewind or fast forward. And I just couldn't figure it out. I got upset and I threw it out. Meanwhile, now I just tear things apart. I didn't need these manuals. And I change the belt, put it back together. You know, I taught myself how to do all this. Okay, now on track with what's going on here. I have batteries in this unit. Now, the very first tape I played on it was, it's not this exact tape, because I recorded this tape in, do I have the date on here? No. But I recorded it in early 93, I think February of 93. It was, the original was on a TDK D90. It's the Buster motion picture soundtrack. If you're not familiar with that, Buster was a movie filmed in the late 80s starring Phil Collins. And my mom bought the soundtrack for it on vinyl because, you know, it had some new Phil Collins songs on it. And it was actually, the whole soundtrack is really good. And if you don't know, you guys want to know, Phil Collins, Genesis, and Elton John are like my all-time favorite bands. Okay? And this is a very good soundtrack to me, in my opinion. I mean, it's not just Phil Collins. There's only about a few Phil Collins songs on here, but the rest other artists did, and oldies on here, and it's really good. So yeah, this tape here was recorded in early 93, whereas the other tape I had, I may have recorded in the... Yeah, okay, I remember now. I recorded that tape on my dad's stereo on the D60 cassette in the late... It was in 1988 sometime, so... Anyhow, one thing I always like, this was my first, oh no, not this one, I'm thinking ahead. Cassette loads like that, not in the door. Door closes. It has that smoked look to it, like, it's, you can see through it, but it's like, you know, like how it is here, and tinted. And, here we go. And this is all discrete components, no or integrated circuits or anything, and it goes up very loud. I can't even make it past 7 or 8 right now because it's very, very loud. And lots of good bass response too. And that was the first thing I played. I remember playing that cassette multiple times. And in fact, it was sitting on this very dresser right here. I remember coming home, it was cold outside, dark outside, turned this lamp on underneath the dresser. Tape recorder sits on the desk. It was playing. Now, again, because I restored it as perfect fast forward and rewind. Very, very solid, you know, fast forward and rewind very fast. We're about to do a record demonstration, but first thing I'm going to tell you about, all my tape recorders I had growing up had this traditional layout of the keys. You know, always went record, play, rewind, fast forward, stop, and eject, just like this one, like the sound design. This was my first tape recorder where it didn't follow that. I mean, the fact they went record, rewind, fast forward, play, stop, and eject like that. And it's all for mechanical reasons, you know. So that was another huge fascination of mine. So what we're going to do now, we'll do a recording test with the only way, the external microphone. There is no mechanical pause on this, so it's all controlled with the microphone here. The camera will focus on it. There we go. So let's do this. Now, this is a test of the Panasonic RQ-209AS Cassette tape recorder from 1970. It is 4:58 a.m. November 20th, 2016. There's another up close thing listening to the motor with the camera. which is weird. I'm doing 2 different recordings at once right now. So let's stop this and see how it turns out. Now, this is a test of the Panasonic RQ-209AS Cassette tape recorder from 1970. It is 4:58 a.m. November 20th, 2016. There's another up-close thing listening to the motor with the camera, which is weird. I'm doing 2 different recordings at once right now. So let's stop this and see how it turns out. And yeah, absolutely perfect. Now we'll hook up some music to it and do a recording that way. Alright, I have it dubbing now for a rather complicated setup. Not really, but I'm going from a stereo cord into the stereo to mono adapter through a coupler into the attenuator cable into the microphone in jack. In fact, let me try something else while this is recording. Now let me explain something about this. I'm playing Coldplay's Clocks song, and I have a reason for that. Hearing it out, one thing it reminded me, okay, remember I was telling about November, dark outside, cold, dark clouds. Hearing that play, like it was like at the beginning of November or October, if that just made me remember the time when I got this tape recorder, and it was just perfect. Yeah, look at this. The monitor output accepts down to 8 ohms impedance. So yeah, hooking an external speaker to this would be really good. And also from the previous video talking about that Sony, the output power on this is 1.5 watts. And you might be thinking, well, that's not very much. Again, these are rated correctly. That is very loud and full. That's just what I mean. People don't understand that nowadays. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it, but yeah, it's... But anyhow, if this Sony right here is properly rated, but it's only 400 milliwatts in the 8 ohms, which isn't much. Doesn't go up that loud. So yeah, let's finish recording this and we'll play it back. This is what it looked like back in 1992. I had it sitting on my desk part of the dresser just like this. And the lights on like this. I didn't have the TV on like I do, but the same TV, same everything. It's all good. So... I brought up this other Panasonic tape recorder from a similar era as this Panasonic on the left. I'll show you a few things. Let me eject the handle here. This is the model RQ-209. I estimate from about 73. And a much higher end unit. This is what you got. This, as you can see, this has the newer style Panasonic logo. And it has automatic stop with an integrated circuit. It has the tape counter. Panasonic always used those white lettered ones on their cassette recorders, I remember. And you have eject over here now. Same layout. A VU battery meter, microphone condenser, same solid metal handle, but this one's spring loaded. Check it. So locks away. This one has the standard power connector in here. In fact, the power cord that's on this, you're gonna laugh, came off that Sound Design stereo I destroyed several years back. DC in 6 volts for use in a car. Side here you have sound monitor, off and easy-matic. whereas sound monitor is just what the earphone monitor function does on this, except it'll do it through the speaker. Off is manual level control, and Easymatic is automatic level control. And on the front, aux in, microphone, remote, external speaker, 8 ohms. And this has the same exact knobs for the numbers, and it's tone and volume control on this unit. This one's even heavier. Actually, this one has batteries in it, so yeah, this one's actually heavier without batteries. You see how it has the same volume control. It also came with the carrying case. I have the manual and an external microphone. But yeah, that's what's, as you went up in, guess you could call it trim levels and features, that's what you get. So let me try something here. So before I decide to wrap this up, one last tape recorder that I can't really say is in my childhood. It happened when I was 18, and also I didn't really get a chance to use it because I needed it restored, so I didn't get a chance to use it until a couple of years back. You guys remember the Pencrest? This is along the lines of this. I mean, look at it. It's solid everything. And this is one of my best performing tape recorders. And I mean, so yeah, this was it from back in the day. This is the last one that was part of it before I actually started collecting, more than what I have, right now. I don't know where I'm going with that, but here we go. I just wish it would rain. I'll wrap this video up of my final presentation of the last vintage tape recorder or tape recorder period from my childhood. I just showed them all to you, originating from that. Speaking of ones I strictly owned, the Sony, the Panasonic, and this one I got when I was 18. And this isn't it. This is just tape recorders. I still will have a couple more vintage videos, and one is my original that I got back. So many more very special episodes to come.